That's heartwarming. Now, let's return to that story of diplomacy. When Burkina Faso's government summoned Ghana's ambassador to that country to voice their displeasure at recent comments made by President Akufo-Addo in the United States regarding some relationship between Burkina Faso and Russia. Let's get some details now as we are joined by Ghana's ambassador to Burkina Faso via phone. I think we have a better connection now, Your Excellency. Thank you for your time and your patience. What exactly were the concerns of the Burkinabe government? Why were they upset?
Good afternoon. I think it's good to ask this question because in communication sometimes the intent is misinterpreted or misperceived. They initially had to invite me as a representative of the President of the Republic of Ghana to find out perhaps if there was any...
To us on the telephone, that might be helpful. It's very, very loud feedback. Yeah, I think that has been fixed now. Please go ahead.
We had to go to respond. They wanted to know the intent behind the message. And so they had to call me to express their displeasure. But at the end of it, it was rather to be a pleasurable thing for them because the intent of the message as presented by His Excellency Nana-Addo was about seeking the support of partners in this battle. And the battle is a common battle that we are all fighting against, and that's the terrorism. And so the president, being chairman of the Accra Initiative, took his initiative to be able to tell partners that they need to move in to help Burkina Faso. So my invitation was to explain the intent behind the message. And that is it, because before the president went to America for the summit, there was an Accra initiative where he stated that there was the need to find all the necessary resources by any means possible for Burkina Faso to begin to continue their fight against terrorism as a preventive mechanism. In other words, if the problem is in Burkina Faso, and if Burkina is able to fight it, then it will not cascade down to the coastal countries. That was the intent. And so it was explained to them. And the president, in his wisdom again, as an experienced diplomat and politician, sent a delegation to explain further and to convince them, to allay their fears that it was not an issue of malice, but it was an issue of recognizing the problem, the difficulties Burkina Faso faces, and also as a preventive measure to curtail terrorism, scaling down to the coastal countries. So that was the essence of the message and the joint discussion. And once it was understood, that was it.
Right. Please help us understand how you communicated to the Burkinabe government what Russia has to do with terrorism in Burkina Faso. How did you explain that part of it?
No, countries have relations bilateral and multilateral. So we didn't have any deal to explain anything on that because Ghana has relations with various countries. So does Burkina Faso. So that is not the major issue. The issue is as whether terrorism exists and whether friendly countries can help to fight terrorism.
Okay, but the president mentioned Russia, talked about the relationship between Russia and certain citizens of Burkina Faso. How did you explain that?
Oh, that has to do with a gold mine, and that has existed long ago. It has existed long ago. The Russian company operating gold mine, it has existed long ago.
How is that related to terrorism?
So that is about the mining, and is under control.
Sorry, I'm not sure I follow.
I'm saying there is an old mine
Yes.
that a Russian company was already working on.
Right.
And so anybody who perceives Russians working on mines may not be wrong or right, because countries have their bilateral relations. And Ghana, for example, is not interested in what happens between one country and the other. What the president seeks to do is, how do we combat terrorism that Burkina Faso is facing so that it does not cascade to the coastal countries?
Right.
And they understood it.
Right,
Yeah.
Your Excellency, that's what I'm hoping to do, to also understand. You're saying that the mention of Russians had nothing to do with terrorism. So what was it to do with? Why did the president of Ghana mention this Russian mine?
No, it depends, because at that time, even in Burkina, there were stories about Russians coming around and all those kind of things. Visits, exchange bilateral visits. You know, those things are the normal in the diplomatic arena.
I'm sorry, I'm still as lost as I was at the beginning. Yeah, so we heard the president talk about this Russian mine in Burkina Faso, right, in a conversation which you say is about terrorism. But now, as you explained it to us, the Russian mine has nothing to do with terrorism. So why did the president mention it? What point was he seeking to make?
Oh, that was a conditional thing. Supposing if people are deemed to be coming for mining, and if people are at bilateral level, they are doing their conversations, you need to be able to question things. So it's not a confirmation of anything. That has been sorted out because the Burkinabes have stated clearly what their position is. And they say their problem is not Ghana.
Are you saying that the president of Ghana...
That is not a big deal.
Are you saying that the president of Ghana was guessing that the Russians are involved in terrorism and the Burkinabes are confirming that they are not? Are you saying that our president was guessing that the Russians are involved in terrorism in Burkina Faso and that he didn't actually have facts?
No.
Okay, we're patiently waiting for the explanation. Do we have His Excellency on the line? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, Your Excellency, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I'm back.
Yes. So we're waiting for the explanation. If that's not it, if the president was not guessing, then what exactly was he doing?
Guessing what?
Okay, Your Excellency, you were explaining that the president was stating a hypothetical situation. That suppose...
Yeah, I'm talking of bilateral relations of countries and multilateral relations of countries. And I'm saying that was not the core issue. The core issue was about terrorism. How do we mobilize resources to support Burkina Faso to combat terrorism and also to prevent terrorism coming down to the coastal countries?
Okay. I think the only thing we want to understand is what that has to do with the Russians.
That one, perhaps, we need to find out.
Okay, so you're not sure why the president mentioned...
The intent behind the communication was about getting partners to support Burkina Faso to combat terrorism.
Okay.
either getting resources or any other support Burkina will need.
So how did
And
you
that
leave
was it.
things? How did things end with the Burkina Faso government?
Oh, they are happy to hear that resources are needed for them.
Okay.
They are very grateful to know that resources are needed for them.
Right. Your
And
Excellency.
the relations will be strengthened far, far better.
Okay.
And it's already in the process.
Very well. Your Excellency, thank you very much for your time with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
That is His Excellency Boniface Gambila, who is Ghana's ambassador to Burkina Faso.